morning, GRU. My name is Brenda Moen, and my husband Doug and I have been attending Grand River Unitarian for 6 years. We found many ways to get involved in the life of the congregation. There are always things to do here. We will be at GRU 3 times this week alone. And we have truly found a spiritual home and a comfortable place to have fun with nice people in this community. And so we are so glad that we took a chance to come out I remember it being cold and rainy, November Sunday in 2018 to see what a UU church was all about, and we've stayed. Today's service is a little more personal because as the winner of the Dream Auction sermon, I had a fair bit of input into it. So I hope you find it worthwhile. Welcome to this morning, this day, and this opportunity to be together in community, which is a time of joy, comfort, and sometimes challenges. This Unitarian Universalist congregation is a place where we come to learn more about being human. We're not here because we've figured out life's questions or because we think we've got it right. We come here to learn more about being in relationship together, how to listen, how to forgive, how to be vulnerable, and how to create trust and compassion in one another. As we gather this morning, we bring many experiences. If your interests include intellectual conversation, spending time in nature, ethical parenting, sustainable living, artistic expressions, or creating social justice, we hope you will reach out and connect with those in the community with similar passions. If you're new here, we encourage you to visit us several times on Sundays or beyond to really get to experience the variety and diversity of our community. Review our website, Facebook page, publications, displays, and our weekly email letter, The Tab. Please know that you are warmly invited to join us for coffee and conversation after the service. We have 2 announcements, the first one by Kathy.
Good morning again. For those of you that have been new to our congregation over the last year, we warmly and welcome you to an evening with Rev Jess this Friday night, and in one of our members' homes. And there's more information downstairs on the Community Builders bulletin board, or you can see myself after the service. And we look forward to seeing you.
Good morning. I have a very brief announcement. The current total for our pledge drive is $137,000. And thanks to Margaret Inslee, the keeper of the data, if 27 regular donors who haven't confirmed their pledge yet were to do so, that would bring us to a total of $165,000. And as you recall, our goal is $170,000. So this is within reach. So if the regular donors would confirm, a couple of you who haven't submitted yet, we're interested in getting that done. That would be very helpful and very heartening. So let's do this.
And now we set aside the busyness of our lives and consent to simply be together, giving one another the gift of our attention and intention. Please turn off or silence your phones, and as you do so, I invite you also to turn down the volume of our fears, to loosen the armor around our hearts. Please rise in body or in spirit to sing our opening hymn, number 1015, with revised lyrics in the order of service.
It's easy to miss the narrow side street that bends away from the main road in busy Tokyo, Japan. And even if you happen to meander down that alley, you could easily miss the set of stairs that lead you down to the chiming door of the Funicula Cafe. That it exists at all might startle you, for you may have heard the rumors that one specific chair at one specific table with coffee served by one specific barista can allow a person to visit a specific point of time in the past. There are many specific rules governing this unique opportunity. You have to stay seated. It's important to understand that nothing you do in revisiting the past will actually change how reality in the present unfolds. So if you hope to shift an outcome, that's not going to be possible. And you must return to the present before the coffee gets cold. Still, many people, haunted by grief or regret, choose to make this curious journey, to confront their grief, to right a wrong, to revisit a lost loved one, and connect just one more time. Such is the world woven by Japanese playwright Toshigasu Kawaguchi in his novel series, Before the Coffee Gets Cold. The stories of these time-traveling visitors remind us of the fleeting passage of time, our fragility, and our finite reality. Kawaguchi writes, "Seasons flow in a cycle. Life, too, passes through difficult winters. But after any winter, spring will follow. People tend to feel happy when spring arrives, especially after a cold winter. But when spring begins, however, cannot be pinpointed to one particular moment. There is no one day that clearly marks when winter ends and spring begins. Spring hides inside winter. We notice it emerging with our eyes, our skin, and other senses. We find it in new buds, a comfortable breeze, and the warmth of the sun. Spring exists alongside winter. And so we light our chalice this morning, knowing joy and woe are woven fine. Let this flame be to us a symbol of the wholeness we seek. Its glow reminding us of the sacred bonds which link us to all people. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. Children of all ages are invited forward with a story by Brenda.
Today's story is called The Invisible String by Patrice Karst. Liza and Jeremy, the twins, were asleep one calm and quiet night. Suddenly, it began to rain very hard, Thunder rumbled until it got so loud that it woke them up. "Mommy, Mommy," they cried as they ran to her. "Don't worry, you two. It's just the storm making all that noise. Go back to bed." "We want to stay close to you," said Jeremy. "We're scared." Mom said, "You know we're always together, no matter what." "But how can we be together when you're out here and we're in bed?" said Liza. Mom held something right in front of them and said, this book is a little floppy, sorry. Mom held something right in front of them and said, "This is how." Rubbing their sleepy eyes, the twins came closer to see what Mom was holding. "I was about your age when my mummy first told me about the invisible string." "I don't see a string," said Jeremy. "You don't need to see the invisible string. People who love each other are always connected by a very special string made of love. And if you can't see it, how do you know it's there?" asked Liza. "Even though you can't see it with your eyes, you can feel it with your heart and know that you are always connected to everyone you love. When you're at school and you miss me, your love travels all the way along the string until I feel it tug my heart. And when you tug it right back, we feel it in our hearts," said Jeremy. "Does Jasper the cat have an invisible string?" Liza asked. "She sure does," said Mom. "And best friends like me and Lucy?" asked Liza. "Best friends too." "How far can the string reach?" "Anywhere and everywhere," Mom said. "Would it reach me even if I were a submarine captain deep in the ocean?" asked Jeremy. "Yes," Mom said, "even then." "Or a mountain climber?" "Even there." "A dancer in France?" "Even there." "A jungle explorer?" "Even there." "How about an astronaut out in space?" "Yes, even there," said Mom. Then Jeremy quietly asked, "Can my string reach all the way to Uncle Brian in heaven?" "Yes, even there." "Does the string go away when you're mad at us?" "Never," said Mom. "Love is stronger than anger, and as long as love is in your heart, the string will always be there. Even when you get older and you can't agree about things like what movie to see, or what game to play in the back seat, or what time to go to bed." "Oh, that's right, you two should be in bed." And with that, they all laughed as Mom chased them back to their beds. Within a few minutes, they were asleep, even though the storm was still making the same loud noises outside. As they slept, they started dreaming of all the invisible strings they have, and all the strings their friends have, and their friends have, and their friends have, until everyone in the world was connected by invisible strings, and from deep inside, they could clearly see no one is ever alone. And that is the end. Thank you for listening. I'm busy today. Today's offertory is called Honoring Church Ancestors by Alice Anachek and Naisman. Let us take a moment to honor the ancestors of this church, the people who first came together to create a home for liberal spirituality here in Waterloo Region, who worked to raise money for a building, who sat in committee meetings and created bylaws, who chopped and marinated and baked for potlucks, who painted and weeded and pounded nails and washed countless dishes, who gathered to worship, to learn, to grieve, to heal, to serve, to build justice, to transform their lives in this world. We are the recipients of an incredible gift and a beautiful vision. Let us do our part to keep this congregation strong, vital, and thriving for the generations to come. The morning offering will now be gratefully received. In the last few years, I have been living with grief and loss. We've lost both my mother and mother-in-law, and I am still learning to live with it. In particular, I'm still processing the loss of my mother. I'll tell you a little bit about her. My mother, Joanne, was a very proud and dedicated housewife and mother. She had a big personality, and she was the very heart of the family. I'm afraid I'm going to cry. Take a little breath here. It's the very heart of the family. She kept an immaculate and organized house, made legendary desserts and jellied salads, and loved her family fiercely. She was a constant support and cheerleader in my life. She was barely 5 feet tall in her later years and had many health issues, including debilitating rheumatoid arthritis. And in her final year, a very virulent cancer. The cancer started as a small skin cancer, but because of COVID, it wasn't diagnosed until it had spread internally and was soon terminal. She was a tough cookie and always fought back through her many health setbacks that started actually in her 30s. In the last 10 years of her life, it was common for her to get very ill, have to go to the hospital, get some IV antibiotics and adjust her medication, and then we'd hear from the nurses that she'd improved radically overnight, and by morning she was sitting up in bed asking for peanut butter and honey on toast. And she was home again in a few days. We'd started to think she was immortal, but she wasn't. I said she was a tough cookie, and she fought hard and gave it all she could, but she couldn't win against cancer. And she died in November of 2022, just days short of her 80th birthday and her 60th wedding anniversary. She would tell me, just get on with it. When she was gone, she left a huge hole in the family and in my life. I felt like I'd been hit by a tidal wave. I would be going about my life and suddenly feel a wave of grief hit me. I'd think I should tell Mom about that, or boy, she'd really like to see that. And then I realized I couldn't. I spent a lot of time thinking about her and remembering her. I made her signature dishes, even a jellied salad. And as a family, we talked about her whenever we could get together. In this time of fresh grief, it reminded me of a trip to Mexico many years ago. Doug doesn't even remember it, but it did me. I grew up swimming in Lake Huron, but not an ocean. And I remember blithely stepping into the cresting waves, only to find myself suddenly pulled down under the water and onto my knees. I fought to stand up, only to be pulled down again. I finally got myself into shallower water and walked out with bloodied knees and in shock. And that was how I felt about my mother's loss. I didn't have a clear idea about how to deal with this kind of grief. Over the last few years, I stumbled into a few things that have helped me. My mother's favorite color was purple, hence what I'm wearing today. And whenever I was feeling sad or missing her, I wore something purple, and my wardrobe has a whole section of purple tops now. My mom hated having her picture taken, and usually only smiled in photos when her grandchildren were close by. So I found a good picture of her and put it on a bookshelf in my living room. And then I added some knickknacks that she had made, and I found a couple of angels, and I realized it'd become kind of a shrine. These things help me, but they don't stop the bad days or the tears or the aching loss. Then I did what I always do when I hit an obstacle in life. I looked for a good book with ideas about how to deal with loss. Winning the Dream Auction sermon allowed me to think about what was on my mind, and it was loss that seemed like a good topic. I read a lot of good reviews about the book called The Wild Edge of Sorrow by Francis Weller. And I found it spoke to me about what I was feeling and things I could do. One of the things it encouraged me to do was to share my experiences with grief and loss with other people. Everyone, it seems, has experienced some form of deep loss by adulthood. I have found that profound grief has allowed me to connect with others going through the same things and to find mutual comfort there. It is meaningful human connection in a difficult time. Sometimes it's just a hug or a sense of being heard and seen. Sometimes it's just talking about the loved one with someone for a few minutes. There is a deep connection possible in our profound grief. And I think that this reaching out prevented me from just sitting in the sorrow. It has drawn me out of that darkness and loneliness, and it's helped me to be helpful to others as well. And I'm grateful for that insight and the beautiful connections with other grieving people here at GRU. Rev Jess is going to talk about the book and its lessons more, but I encourage you to take a look at it if you find yourself in grief and loss. Again, it's called The Wild Edge of Sorrow by Francis Weller. And I want to finish with a lovely reading. It's called A Blessing for Grief by Katie Savani Gelfand. May you be tender and gentle with yourself, and be cared for by those who will envelop you with compassion and presence. May you know that there is so much beauty in your grief, especially when it feels messy. May you know that the depth your grief is a measure of the love your heart is capable of. May you cry an ocean of tears and never fear the tides of your grief. May you scream and rage and emote your pain in safe and supported spaces. And may you never be judged for the power of your expression. May you be comforted by a blanket woven of love when you feel the harsh and palpable illusion of aloneness. May you remember in moments of despair that all life comes from the womb of sacred darkness and that something new will be born from this void. May you allow yourself to change. May the pain of your loss awaken you to the pulse of your humanity. May you have faith in the crucible of your soul to transform this grief into a numinous, which means sacred, I found out, song that brings you closer to your own divinity. May your experience of loss expand your capacity to extend compassion to others. May you eventually wear your scars as luminous gems on the unfurled wings of your heart. And may you always remember the preciousness of life.
The Buddhist parable of the mustard seed tells of a woman hysterical with grief for the sudden loss of her young child. She begs the Buddha for magic or medicine to restore his life and her happiness. The Buddha said, "I know of such a medicine that can help you, but first you must bring me a mustard seed. But it must come from a household that has never known death." The grieving mother, excited for this opportunity, ran through the village to find such a seed. At each house where she knocked, every neighbor was more than willing to give her a mustard seed. But when she asked if anyone had died there, it was always the same response. "Well, yes, my father, my mother, my sister, my brother, my husband, my wife, my daughter, my son, my cousin, my friend, my teacher, my lover." Gradually, as she went from family to family, household to household, she realized that her own loss was part of the river of life that inevitably flows toward death. That loss and grief is inevitably a part of life. And so she returned to the Buddha, she returned to living, she returned to learning, she returned to loving, she returned to herself. Today's challenge to preach on the subject is that, like that woman searching for the mustard seed, any story I can tell you is a story you already know, have already lived, have already or are mourning or are afraid of right now. Whether by testimony or research, by science or sympathy, what is true at any scene of crisis, in hospital or beside the deathbed, in the aftermath of catastrophe, be it personal or political, words fall short. Analysis is unlikely to provide answers that comfort. Words, my tool of trade, prove completely inadequate. Opening our hearts to grief, we find that it is at once a deeply individualized process, and at the same time, it is one of our most shared, understood, communal, and therefore connecting of experiences. Our strong emotions are by nature communal. What is most likely to create healing is the help of community. Professor Dr. Keltner notes that we humans are wired to respond to each other's troubles with care. Our nervous systems make little distinction between our own pain and the pain of others. They react similarly to both. This instinct is as much a part of being human as the desire and need to eat and breathe. Our human compassionate instinct is a fundamental aspect of the human success story. The word compassion literally means to suffer together. Compassion is one of our best and most redemptive qualities. The sadness from which compassion springs is an agent of connection and love. It's what the musician Nick Cave calls the universal unifying force. Sorrow and tears are one of the strongest bonding mechanisms we have. And still, we can forget that grief is not just an emotion. It's not just a state of mind, not just a passing mood. It's not an intellectual decision. Grief is held in our bodies. It is held physically. And so it requires a physical response, a discharge, a release, a recovery. Not cross, come up on the other side and continue on my merry way as I was before the loss. But in this past week of deep contemplation, I rather think now that that river is way too wide and far too tumultuous for me to cross. No God is going to part it for my safe passage. So maybe instead, that river that we walk along is the guiding path that followed might take us to our source. Crossing the river, getting to the other side is an idea that proves a distraction because there is no there. And what I need instead are reminders of my grief and reminders that there are healing. Francis Weller, the author of The Wild Edge of Sorrow, imagines that instead of a stream, grief presents us with 5 gates, the threshold at which we stand. And so I offer a meditation. And for this meditation, you're going to need a couple of physical objects, tokens to hold on to remind us to stay in our bodies. These bowls contain many different tokens. There are stones and seeds. There's puzzle pieces, natural objects, acorn caps, and bits of coral. There's Mobius strips and playing cards and paper clips and a few surprises if you dig deeper. There are written blessings. These are from the kindness jars that our children in our youth group created for us. You may have seen them around the building. There are American pennies. Make of that what you will. Scraps of ribbon. Brenda and I are going to pass these bowls around. And I encourage you to select one object that speaks to you of the grief you are holding today, and a second object that speaks to you of healing. One symbolizing grief, one symbolizing healing. These are not so invisible strings for you to hang on to today. And I encourage you to take some time. Don't hurry in your choices. Take a look at what you find in the bowl. Take time to dig around a bit. So don't be in a rush, but also don't overthink it, Unitarians. Don't overthink it. Trust your instincts in what feels meaningful to you. For those of you who are tuning in at home, take some time to sift through drawers and cupboards just to find a small common object from your home. And once selected, consider what these objects mean to you. What do they symbolize? Hold them and reflect. And I ask that we treat the passing of these bowls, this reverse offertory, as a meditation during the music, with silence and respect. Let us begin. hold the objects that you've chosen in your hands. And I'll lead us to a meditation inspired by the work of Francis Weller. First, settle in your seat. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Breathe deeply. Imagine yourself now alone in a dimly lit hallway. It's a vast and sparse space. The wooden floor on which you stand is covered in a fine dusting of salt and sand. Above you swirl galaxies of stars, your only ceiling. Look around you, and you will find 5 enormous unlocked gateways, each awaiting your entry. Maybe your gates are made of wood or vines. Maybe they are steel or copper. Which of these gates calls to you? One gate is the acknowledgement of ancestral grief, a gateway that recognizes the inherited grief and trauma that can be carried within our bodies and emotional systems from our ancestors. And as we have ancestors, so we too pass on to become ancestors for succeeding generations. Is this grief, this ancestral grief, one that you feel in your blood today? Turn now to another gate. This gateway is grief for what we expected but did not receive. This gate delves into the feelings of emptiness and longing, often stemming from unmet expectations, the loss of belonging, a diminished sense of our true selves. Is this grief one that you carry heavy in your heart today? Turn again to a gateway and face the sorrows of the world, the human ache of lamentation. This gate acknowledges the collective grief experienced by humanity, environmental concerns, social injustices, the loss of our connection with nature. Is this a grief assaulting your senses today? Again, turn, and this time, face the places in you that did not receive love. This gate explores the areas within ourselves that have been neglected or where love has been absent. It can lead to shame and self-doubt, self-denial. This gateway of grief includes regret, the fears of inadequacy. Is this a grief you carry in your gut today? Now turn to the remaining gate. In this, we find the face of the more familiar grief for most of us, the inevitable truth we know in our bones. All that we love, we will lose. This gate encompasses the sorrow associated with the loss of loved ones, relationships, things we cherish, the perishing or diminishing of our health or energy, mobility, strength. Is this a grief present in your core today? Whichever of these gates pulls you in, whether one of these or more of these, choose now to enter. Open the gate. Move across its threshold. Make your way inside. And know that though we each stand at grief's threshold alone, though we alone choose when and how to cross through the gate, once we fully enter, we see beyond the threshold that we are not alone. Through every gate, there waits a community of companions, others on this path of grief who have crossed the threshold before and who are ready to receive you with compassion, with care, with acceptance. Just as you in your turn will prepare to receive others. May the tokens from this ritual remind you that the grief you carry is a burden of love and longing, is part of our being, so very human. The Sufi mystic Rumi writes, one night, a man was crying, Allah, Allah. His lips grew sweet with praising until a cynic said, so, I've heard you calling out, but have you ever gotten any response? The man had no answer to that. He quit praying and fell into a confused sleep. He dreamed he saw Qadr, the guide of souls, in a thick green foliage. Why did you stop praising? He asked. Because I've never heard anything back. This longing you express is the return message. The grief you cry out from draws you toward union. Your pure sadness that wants help is the secret cup. Listen to the moan of a dog for its master. That whining is the connection. There are love dogs no one knows the names of. Give your life to be one of them. On this table, where we normally light candles, there is a bowl of salt and a vessel of water. Salt is essential to life. It is in our oceans and in our tears. Because our tears are also essential to life, you'll be invited now to place a pinch of salt in the water. And as you do so, you may share aloud what or who your tears are for today. The cameras will not be showing your image during this ritual, and we won't have a microphone, so when you share aloud, you'll be sharing with just those around you. You may speak as quietly or as loudly as you feel called to do so. For those of you watching from home, please gather salt and water from your own kitchen so you may participate from a distance. We'll take the time we need for this so you don't need to stand in a long line, but come forward as you wish. And it will work like this. My tears are for the sorrow of the world. Brenda, will you start us off? Please join me in singing Voice Still and Small. The words are in your hymnal. Francis Weller says, sorrow is a sustained note in the song of being alive. Rumi says, this being human is a guest house, every morning a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Will you rise as we sing our closing hymn, number 1002, Comfort Me. Francis Weller tells us, grief has a way of disassembling us, but we have a way together of reassembling one another. After the service, there are many things from the bowl. Some you've left, some you've kept. You're welcome to take whatever speaks to you, whatever reminds you of this dual nature of grief. As an individual standing alone at the threshold with a community awaiting you on the other side. May we go in peace. May we carry the flame. Let the people say, Amen.